Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bourbon Note. I'm Greg.
I'm Ben.
And today, we're drinking bourbon. All right, Ben. This is a brand that's recently available in Minnesota that I happen to like. Some people watching maybe don't. I've never heard of it until recently. So let's talk about it.
All right, let's bring it in. This one is BAM Penelope Rose cask finish.
Okay, Ben. 94 proof, 4 years, and wine finished.
Yeah. So Penelope, you alluded to, is a new brand that you didn't really know much about before it came to Minnesota.
Yeah, recently available in Minnesota. We've tried a few of them. We've done a couple of reviews. Really, really like them. They are sourced.
Yeah, I think they're MGP, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
They may be more than just MGP. They're sourcing and blending, but
they do some interesting, they have like a toasted barrel and now obviously the rosé cask finish, and then they have like their architect blends where they do different blending. So they're doing cool stuff with their sourced material. This one is a rosé cask. I've
never had a rosé cask.
Sniffed this. I've never had a rosé cask. Now we have had a couple of Chardonnay cask finished versions.
You were
Bourbons.
Reluctant participant in those reviews, I think.
Yeah, I hated them.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
So let's see what the
But you like port cask and you like,
Sure, yeah.
Sauvignon Blanc, or
depending on what the
Cabernet
bourbon
Sauvignon,
is,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So let's get in for the sniff here. I'm interested to see what this brings.
floral, very light, very acidic.
Huh. Yeah, there's a like kind of a light fruit note.
Almost like
Smells pretty
caramel
good.
covered apple, crisp apple.
I could see that, sure.
All right, I'm going for it.
All right, cheers. What the
So I get two very distinct flavors, bourbon and wine, and they don't work together.
Well, I've liked all the Penelopes, all of them. I'm going for a second sip here. I have noticed in most of our recent reviews, if you're a regular viewer, you'll notice that these last handful of them, like the last 10 of them, maybe that's an exaggeration, but really need to go in for the second sip and just kind of...
Yep.
But that first one was odd. Like, that was really odd.
I'm getting a flavor that I would say, I don't think off-putting is negative enough about. Like, there's a flavor I dislike.
Balanced out a little more on the second sip.
I'm guessing...
Still there, but nice viscosity for a 4-year bourbon. So 4 years, did we cover that? Glass cork.
Yeah.
Weird. Price? I got to imagine
Maybe
probably...
60?
Okay, yeah.
I think 59,
Figures
89
probably something
kind of
like
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Man, I just don't know what to do with this. The nose is really nice.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? And this is not a flavor, it's a aroma. And I think they've changed it where it's not this way. You remember, you're gonna have to go back in time a bit, walking through the mall and you walk past the hairdresser type store and there's a particular smell that you would get when
like all the hair product, and the perm, the smell of women like getting their hair permed, or back in the 80s, men getting their hair permed.
And I think they've got rid of a lot of those chemicals and it's not that way anymore. But you could always tell when you're getting close to a hair salon in the mall because just some overpowering chemicals. That's kind of what this flavor is.
It tastes like that smells.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. That may be the oddest tasting note ever thrown out in the history of whiskey too, but I don't think you're off.
Like it's just
Starting to smell it now.
Exactly. It's just.
So if you were to eat a 1980s perm, that's what this tastes like.
Burnt hair is not actually.
To be perfectly honest, there's this weird note, and I have absolutely no idea how to describe it.
Response. Like it's so off-putting. I wonder if this bottle is even good. Like,
see, I'm not going that far. I don't hate this as much as I hated the Amador or the Thomas S. More Chardonnay or whatever. I wouldn't even say I hate this. It's just so weird. Like so.
So I before you go any further, I don't hate it either, but it is very noticeable.
It's weird.
I think I've had 4 sips, maybe 5 sips. 2 of the sips I didn't notice it on, which was weird, but the others I have. And you know what? I said burnt hair. I think I'm gonna lean in on that a little bit more and say it's in that range. It's kind of like just a real off-putting note, but But again, it's not so bad that I'm going to pour it down the drain. I'm definitely going to revisit it. But I definitely want to pull in. We have another Penelope product sitting over on the bar just in case. I want to pull that in to compare.
Okay.
To see if the whiskey tastes like the whiskey.
This is toasted barrel, and it's also 110
It is a little bit
proof.
higher proof. I think it's going to pack a bigger punch, but I'm curious if the similar flavors.
I don't think so, because this is a wine barrel. This is toasted. But you know what? You don't have to twist my arm to get me to drink another bourbon. I am going to have to pour a little more of the rosé. Here's the weird part about... I'm having a very, very odd experience with this bourbon because there's something about it that's so off-putting, but there's something about it where I almost kind of like a little bit of it.
So I'm not going to disagree with you there. Like,
it's like when your tooth hurts and you can't stop touching it and you're making it hurt, but for some reason you almost borderline enjoy the little bit. Have you ever had that when you just can't stop messing with something or picking at a scab?
No.
I don't know. That's weird.
I'm afraid I can't completely be on board with you there, but it is a little bit of an experience that...
Somebody out there has to have the...
yeah, I'm sure someone can relate. That is a different kind of cork than I've ever seen.
Well, Savage and Cook uses...
Savage and Cook uses, but it's like a really thin top. It's just interesting.
So, but toasted barrel on the left, you can definitely just see the difference in color for sure.
Sure.
I need a couple more tastes of this rosé. This is one of the more odd bourbons I've had because I'm not having a terrible taste reaction to it like those other Chardonnay ones. Say I come over to somebody's house, they pour me a thick pour of this. I'm not gonna have a hard time drinking it. It's just, it's getting better as I'm drinking it, but it's just weird.
So I totally agree. Like, I don't hate it. That's the weird part. It has a really weird flavor that is, I don't think belongs in bourbon, but it's not a flavor I genuinely hate. Like,
I think the burnt hair, I mean, that's oddly enough, the burnt hair and hair care, it's world-renowned bourbon reviewer and internet sensation, Greg
and
Welch.
Obviously mall shopper from the 80s.
God, that's weird. All right, I'm going to go to the toasted barrel.
It may be turning into a little bit of like roasted caramel.
I thought you were going to say hair.
No. I think some of that's going away. Maybe this is the ultimate example of a bad neck pour. Because it's getting better.
Maybe we're wrong about the neck pour. Okay, so before I go into that one, let's have another. But I mean, the neck pour, I think you got to give it more time than that, don't you?
You know, Ben, there are no rules.
There are no rules. Go.
All right, I'm going to move on to the toasted barrel.
Toasted barrel's nice. We've done a review of this. We both liked it.
We have. A little bit more, maybe the marshmallow, the soft, mellow.
Mm-hmm. See, that has a nice burn on it. Okay, this is interesting. These both have the uniqueness of their flavors come out in like a burn, in like a sharp edge. Mm-hmm. It's like it's regular bourbon, and then the rosé cask and the toasted both kind of manifest themselves as this like sharper edge of extra flavor. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's almost like the wood spice is really like turned up to 11. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem to work as well with the wine. Maybe, I don't know if that's the interaction that's not working for me. But I really do like the toasted barrel. Now, this one's also 15 more proof, so
Yeah.
that kind of...
Yeah, that's going to make a difference for sure. Yeah, I definitely like the toasted barrel better. But yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like each of them have, you can distinctly see the uniqueness of it kind of riding on top of a good bourbon base. You know? Mm-hmm. You know we're going to have to blend the two.
Okay, you know what? I'm making a blend.
Yes, make us a nice Merlot or a Moira Riesling.
I mean, even if it's just 2 bourbons, that doesn't mean it's exempt from the Benny Walker special.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I need to take another sip of the toasted so that we're a little bit closer to 50-50.
You know what? You may have hit the nail on the head. The greatest tasting note ever thrown out in whiskey tube history. I said before it was the weirdest one. It's burnt hair and it's a 1980s perm. And if you weren't around in the 1980s, like I remember that smell. Like I remember when my mom would get a perm, you know, and I remember like I'd be at the salon.
Weird chemicals in there.
When I was a kid, and yeah, like you said, walking by at the mall, and and there is burnt hair and perm.
So, no joke. I would literally, like, I was walking down, you know, Solano Mall, Fairfield, California, if you know the place. And you would get to a place and you would hold your breath. And you'd walk past the 4 stores to get past the thing and then you'd let your breath out. Yeah.
You were trying to avoid the way this bourbon tastes.
Very similar. So
But
then 25 years later, it's back.
There it is. You were collecting tasting notes back then.
Exactly.
But oddly enough, I still don't hate it.
I've done it. Yeah, that's the funny part. Burnt hair, everybody knows what it smells like and nobody likes it. That's what I'm getting. But again, I don't hate it.
But not on the nose. On the nose, it's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. It's all on the palate.
Admittedly, I have a bit of a cold, and so I don't think I have the best.
Well, I'm getting the same things you are, and I'm a picture of health. The rosé finish definitely grew on me. It's almost like I just settled in and accepted the oddness of it and just rolled with it.
But it almost, I guess, I initially thought, why would they release this? But ultimately, it works.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, strangely enough.
I don't know that I can recommend. This is the weirdest bourbon.
I think you need to buy it.
Yeah, you just have to try this for yourself.
I think you need to. And then especially if you have a YouTube channel, I mean, A, it's the greatest thing in the world. But B, don't judge it based on one sip.
Yeah,
give it a little bit of time.
But it's still just as weird as it was when we first tried it.
Totally.
But for maybe it's the nostalgia. Maybe it's just our yearning for the 1980s.
That would be great.
All right, let's go in for the blend here. We didn't know how great
we had it. All right, so I mean we're pushing like 204 proof at this point.
Sure, yeah.
$120, 8 years. In 1960s mall? Did they have malls in the 1960s? I don't know. That was before my time.
Maybe outdoor malls? Wasn't Southdale the first indoor mall in the United States?
I have no idea.
I think it was.
I think they invented shopping in like 1975, like before that.
Is that when it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
People just walked around with bags and
just aimlessly.
Hunters and gatherers at that point.
Interesting blend. Not bad.
Hey, not to be too effusive, but I'd call that one potable.
Not bad at all. It's got nice, mellow, like I would say it's one weakness. It's got plenty of ethanol. That's not the problem. There's not a unique note.
I feel like, and I try to get them as 50-50 as possible. Being, 15 or 16, whatever it is, proof points higher, the toasted barrel is dominant.
Oh,
and so it's cutting down the rosé. So I'm definitely noticing more of the toasted barrel. But it's a nice kind of mellow mid-range between the two.
You get just hints at wine barrel finish.
Yeah. So in closing, I don't know what the hell to tell you about the rosé.
I think you need to try it.
I definitely try it. I think this is a bottle that we maybe need to send some samples out.
It's a good idea.
Some
Patreons.
Some Patreons, maybe some other channels or something, depending on how much you're willing to part with this bottle on samples.
I'll give it a try. I think I know where I can get another one, so
okay.
I'm not too worried about that.
So, all right. Well, this has been Penelope Rosé Cask Finish with a little guest appearance by Penelope Toasted on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben.
I'm Greg. Until next time. See you next time.